evening. Welcome to the June 14th Newmarket Planning Board meeting. Would you please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. First on the agenda is public comments. Anybody out there have anything to talk about that's not on the agenda? Hearing nothing, I will close public comment at 7:01. Next is review and approval of the minutes. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Any discussion, comments?
I think you need a second on my motion.
Oh,
You need a second.
says it. Anybody second it?
Second. Jane?
Jane? All right, any comments? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Motion passes unanimously.
Any abstentions? I don't think so.
I don't think so. Thank you. All right, next, the regular business. So Bill isn't here. We'll go with, there will be a public hearing for an application for a plan acceptance and site plan review requested by Sean McGowan to permit the renovation of the Rockingham Rail Depot to include the relocation of the existing 994 square foot building onto a new foundation, moving the building further from the rail line, adding a 995 square foot addition, all to be used as office space, and a 960 square foot parking barn. The lot is located at 3 Rockingham Junction, tax map R3, lot 13A, B1 zone. Good evening. Anybody here representing the applicant?
And Scott Bedreau are also here, site plan.
Okay. And while you're setting that up, we have a recommendation from Bart that we accept the application as complete. Does anybody have any comments or discussion about the application being
I'll
complete?
make a motion to accept the application as complete, substantially complete.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. And now we'll start the public hearing. Good evening.
Good evening. First of all, thank you for the guidance you provided last time we were here. I think we followed up and completed the application, reviewed the checklists, and substantively the plan is the same as last presented. So we provided the remaining details I think you find in the application. And since we were last here, we did complete a little bit more work, which will be in your packet, to do the septic design and to finalize the parking requirements. So at this point, we're open to taking any questions, but I think we've got a largely conforming plan that meets the objectives of preserving the old depot, getting community access, generally beautification of the neighborhood, and hopefully a win-win project for the towns.
Did I see could you just walk through it real quickly for especially people at home that haven't seen this before, potentially?
So just to give a quick narrative, is presented in a way that this will be good for the people at home?
Yes.
Okay, great. So the existing rail building, which is approximately 15 feet off the active railroad tracks, 968 or so square feet, with the old granite foundation that currently has some significant issues with granite failing, will be relocated to this location in blue. In addition to that, there'll be a little breezeway, enclosed glass breezeway connecting to a small addition. And there'll be a small parking barn put here. The parking spaces that are currently available for the public are intended to be kept available to the public. I think we discussed as we were here before, there's no community access easement currently in place. I continue to be open to that. I have no intention of stopping the public in any way from traversing across the land. And the DOT is making progress on their own schedule for this parking lot that is potentially will be put in the Newfield side across the way. At which point they get the easement for the recreational access across the current building easement. The septic system is going to be put in approximate location to where the building was in the past. You can see on the plan it's a little bit further out than the building, just to make sure that it was all in one town, just to keep the regulations simpler. But other than that, there are continued improvement of the site with some landscape. There's really no variances to plan, kind of worth mentioning, are really existing. Here's the elevation of the building. This would be the trail-facing side. So you'd see the historic depot with the easeway, that glass breezeway going into the small addition for office space. Got it. Thanks. A couple more elevations. This is the elevation from the rear. Obviously the west elevation and the east elevation. All of it will be done with very natural materials. It's going to be done with the same kind of craftsmanship work you've seen, like this building in town that is below the Horseshoe Cafe, the nice brick building. That same kind of craftsmanship Michael will bring as a lead engineer for this project. Yep, and the final elevation is for the parking garden.
Okay, thank you. Before we go too far, would you talk briefly about waivers? I see a letter requesting waivers.
Sure, I can speak to those for Scott and whichever. There's 3 waivers being requested. The first waiver, the right sheet here. The first waiver is related to the parking lot and driveways being asphalt. Currently, this is a gravel parking lot. It's actually dirt, and I would intend to make it a nice crushed gravel. The strong preference for environmental reasons is to not use additional asphalt and create more tarway where it's unnecessary in a recreational zone. So I use a product like a crushed shale and compressed in, but it will have better irrigational value and will just be better for the environment in general. So
Okay.
I'm open to consideration on the other, but I think it would be the wrong environmental decision.
Okay, thank you. Let's talk about that. Any board members have any questions about that? I think we should take these one at a time. I'm okay with using gravel. I think we should use gravel as much as we can, as long as the applicant knows they gotta maintain it. I don't have any issue with that. Anybody else have any thoughts?
Just grading plan, maybe. Like, what's the current status of the road?
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
just put it on the back burner for now. We'll get to the,
Yeah.
I think we should
It'll
just
be on
deal
the
with the
site plan,
waivers.
right?
Yep. If I don't hear any objections to the waiver request, then I think I would entertain a motion to approve the waiver request.
One quick question.
Yep.
The definition of maintaining gravel.
Well,
I understand
it's
that. I
like,
mean,
if you plow it and you get potholes, you gotta regrade it and all that.
Right.
That's all.
and what if he doesn't?
Then it hurts his business.
Right.
Well,
but-
also, he'd be subject to the conditions of the site plan approval.
Right.
Right,
And that could be the maintenance program under the site plan approval.
perfect, that's what I wanna make sure, thank you.
Yep.
Make a motion to grant the applicant's waiver request in section 2.03B, 3.02B6, requiring parking lots and aisles to be paved, based upon the justification that the existing conditions are currently gravel, and the applicant, per his testimony, has agreed to also provide a grading plan under the site plan review, and is proposing to use some type of a crushed stone for that parking area and aisles.
All right, thank you, Val. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Jeff. Okay, does anybody have any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the waiver, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. And I have to apologize, Michael, you're appointed to sit in.
Okay,
Sorry,
so
I should have done that before, I'm sorry. All right, would you go on to the next waiver, please?
Okay. The next waiver, and just one detail before I even read it, related to the last comment, not going back on the waiver. My business here is, as I mentioned before, my own personal office. So I've purchased this largely for preservation and access to the trail. So when I talk about, it wouldn't really hurt my business. I'm going to intend to keep it nice because that's the purpose of it. But it relates to the next one. It says parking area shall comply with the setback requirements. In no case shall parking be permitted in the front setback area. I'm requesting a waiver on this, and the justification is that I allow the public to freely park today in that space. I was down there this evening watering the flowers, and there was 7 or 8 cars even this evening. The gentleman that owns the Rockingham Ballroom has done a great job of opening his lot on the weekends, and now that's even full. So the community access is provided by individual landowners in good intention, and I would ask that this group approve this request so I can continue to maintain that public access.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion, any questions?
I have a question. It's not meant to be negative in any way. In winter. I think that that's typically clear of snow in the winter, if I remember right.
Correct.
And who clears the snow from the area where the parking is currently?
The people, it's actually done today by the Snow Raiders,
Okay.
nonprofit organization in Newfields. The Snow Raiders, I have a close relationship with them, and it won't be an issue. They'll properly maintain it in the right way.
So you'll allow them to keep plowing it out.
They'll allow them to keep plowing it. I think I'm actually going to allow them to leave the groomer there occasionally too before a storm to make it easier for them to get out.
Excellent. Thanks.
Excellent. Yeah, it's really good that you guys have public access there. That's nice.
Yeah, it's
Um,
great.
Yeah.
Yep. Any other questions or comments? I'll entertain a motion to approve this waiver.
Make a motion to approve a waiver from section 3.02C, which is requiring parking to be within the setbacks, comply within the setbacks, to permit the parking within the front setbacks based upon the justification testimony provided by the applicant.
Thank you, Val. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Jane. Okay, any discussion, questions, comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. And let me just stop you before you go on. This next one, I'm kind of scratching my head over the stormwater management. I don't think you trigger any of our stormwater management regulations,
I'm going to.
so I'm not sure it's necessary.
Yeah, so we believe it doesn't apply, but
Right.
we wanted to put it in there for
Right.
transparency because
Okay.
we just didn't want to make an assumption and not call it out
Yeah,
in case there was a different.
that's
view of
fine.
the
I'd
board.
rather have you bring it up and have
There
us
were
say you don't
issues
need it than have
early-
it be an issue
early
later.
that could appear.
Absolutely. Does anybody on the board, I mean, our threshold is 20,000 square feet or 5,000 square feet of impervious area, if I remember correctly.
New impervious.
New impervious, and the portion of land in Newmarket isn't even 20,000 square feet. So there's no way it could trigger that. Am I missing something on that? No? Okay.
Well, and all the building improvements don't add up to 5,000 square
right.
feet.
Right. Board members, anybody have any questions or comments on that? I mean, I think, I'm okay with not even talking about the waiver for that. I just wanna make sure we don't, so,
Do you want a motion for the record, that it does, the board?
Yeah,
is-
yeah,
okay. I
we
make a
can-
motion
yeah.
that the applicant's waiver request from section 3.07, stormwater management, does not apply to this application.
is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, motion passes unanimously. Okay, so now we can go on to the site plan review.
Regional impact, I think, should be
Okay.
discussed.
Oh, regional impact, okay, you're right. All right, so one of the issues with having a project that's right on the town line is it could trigger regional impact, either because of the size and or the location or combination thereof. because of what is being proposed here, even though it straddles the town line, I do not believe this should be considered a project that has regional impact.
Well, I would concur because they're already meeting with the town of Newfield as well on the project.
Right.
Which would be obviously the direct abutting community that could be impacted.
Right. And there's not a significant, it's not a significant increase in density or parking or anything like that, so.
Or access to 108.
Right, right. So I'm gonna throw, that's my take on that. What's the rest of the board, how's the rest of the board feel about that? Mikhail?
Concur.
You guys down there? Yeah.
I would agree. I'd say any regional impact would be positive anyway. Be keeping access to the trail, which is
Yeah.
does span numerous towns.
Absolutely.
So-
Yeah, that's the number one thing. As long as the access maintained to the trails, then really, I think that's the only regional impact.
Yep, I agree, and it's a positive impact. So we should entertain a motion to vote that it does not trigger regional impact.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Motion passes. So now we can go on to the site plan. I'm just gonna start, I have a couple questions for the applicant, and then we'll open it up to other board members. Is the septic system approved already?
The septic system has not been approved. So
Okay.
we look for submitting it to the state after we ensure it's this evening.
Okay. Okay, that's all
Can I
I,
ask a question about the septic system?
yes.
So you're moving the building because of the hydrostatic pressure in the area collapsing the basement, right?
Yeah, it's not
That seems like a funny place to put a septic system.
we did have the test pits done. It's fine. So the issue right now is largely with the grading of the land. So the foundation over time, right now the grade of the land is kind of down in that area. So the water is continuing to come running down the road and go into that kind of foundational area.
All right.
It's not coming through the floor at all. So it's really just to do with.
It's surface water.
Surface water and laying out the ground appropriately.
Oh, okay.
And so where that septic system is over where the existing building is, when they take that building down, they'll have to fill
They
all
have to
that
regrade
with
it.
sand and
Yeah.
clean sand, according
Yeah.
to septic
Fill it
regulations
up,
and whatnot.
yeah.
Okay, and,
I thought it was underground water, and I
Oh,
thought that's
yeah.
a dumb place to put a
Yep.
septic system.
yep. The other question I had is the access driveway, I'll call it. You mentioned earlier, that's ultimately gonna be an easement through the property?
There is an existing easement for rail use for the
Yes.
railroad.
Yes,
That's deeded easement. And so if you were at the site today, you would notice that the driveway kind of comes
Yep.
around the building very tight, and it also goes this way, and there's an island in the middle of grass. The island in the middle is actually the deeded right away, so the railroad just over years and years of cutting closer on the corner, kept getting closer and closer to the building. So I'm just restoring the road to in the right way to its deeded point, and I'm gonna try and put up proper fencing around that area and things to keep it more contained so that doesn't happen again.
okay. Oh, excuse me, 1 minute. Nobody heard a word you said all night.
They didn't miss much.
No, but so ultimately there is gonna be a formal easement through there?
Well, there is.
There is one, but that's not exactly where it's located, is what you're saying.
It,
And it's for the B and M, so are you working with the state to give them an easement to get to that parking lot? I guess it's ultimately the question I'm asking.
yeah, so I've made it very clear to the state that I welcome an easement for recreational access, but they have to I'm trying to be respectful in the way I say this, they have to follow through on their commitment to build the parking lot. So I'm trying to say to them, build your
Okay.
parking lot, I'll give you an easement. Don't build your parking lot, then you don't have an easement, and right now you have a welcoming landowner, so you should get it done. Because I really have taken a bit of exception, just to be direct, the fact that the parking issues down there aren't addressed by either town, and they're left to the homeowners, or the landowners like myself in Rockingham Ballroom. So I really think the state should do something, and there's a parking problem on 87 as well, because there's not adequate parking down here for this important local access. So I will absolutely give it up. There's zero intention to close the trail. I bought it for preservation, but I don't want to give the easement until they commit to doing what they should do.
Sure, okay, okay.
But there currently is a deeded easement, correct? For the railroad.
Railway only.
And shouldn't that be noted on a survey plan? All
It is.
easements are recorded, and I'm not seeing that on the plan?
It's on the existing.
Oh, it says existing right of way.
Okay.
That is
But if this is the site plan before us, it should also be listed on here. If this is what's on the site plan?
The notes right down here, like southerly boundary.
Got it,
Doesn't mention
thanks.
it.
But so I guess what I'm asking, that is the size and location of it that currently
correct.
exists? Oh, okay, I thought it was a different size, that's
Yeah,
what I was.
no, it's not gonna change
Okay.
in size.
Okay,
Same thing.
okay.
Yeah,
Is
the,
there,
on the site plan, the new way, or as you see, the way
Yes.
is the easement.
Yes.
Yeah. So, so there's an existing railroad, an easement for B and M, and you'll be able to lay the easement for the state to utilize right over it?
Correct.
I won't remember. And crossing it with the septic line is okay, as far as impacting their use of the easement, if it's deep enough, if they gotta regrade the road or anything like that. I wasn't sure if how deep it would be buried, and I'm pretty sure you can't, negatively impact the intended use of
Right.
the easement. So I just
Yeah,
wanted to, I don't know if you've talked to them about it, or.
We've made them available, we've made all the project materials available to them, but no direct interaction.
Well, that'll be part of the DES approval.
And if they look at them, do they look?
They're gonna look at the whole system,
Right.
and
Yeah.
they'll look
Well,
at.
they'll make sure that
they'll-
the
And you
easement
have
is
to
there.
have any easements on, on that.
What pipe are you using there? I mean, are you using did you design the septic? Are you just using a 80?
Can you go to the,
Yeah,
sorry.
sorry.
Oh, sorry, it'll be an insulated PVC pipe.
Okay, but it'll be
Probably
like,
wrapped in, concrete or.
but it'd be like a Schedule 80 or something
Yeah.
more so that it can withstand the load, so.
Yeah, definitely,
Yeah, okay.
right under the road, yeah.
Yep.
And there's no restriction on a B and M easement for.
There's not.
It's not an exclusive use easement, so the DOT could use it too, is what you're saying.
That and the septic.
Yeah, right.
That and the septic.
So-
Okay.
We, see note 7 on the existing right of way. Am I
That
missing something?
was a carryover from the existing conditions plan,
Okay,
so I've gotta fix that and add that note.
so you have to add a note 7?
Yeah, there's a note 7 on the existing conditions plan that makes reference to that
Okay.
right away, that didn't make it over on the site plan.
So you got a little hit list going yourself.
Yeah. So based on, does anybody have any more questions or comments on the easement or the septic or anything?
Right,
There's a bunch of other things we need to talk about. I'll just start going through the list if that's okay with everybody. Do you have something, Val?
no, I was trying to look at the, elevations for the septic. Because right now you have a lot of water runoff coming into that area. Will be a raised system or not?
It's slightly raised. The water table is down at
52.
42 inches, and we're gonna be using one of those advanced barrels.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Septic, so finished grade is 51.5, where the existing ground is pretty much at that elevation, so it's almost that grade.
so how are you trying to direct the water from the runoff from the road?
It's going down towards the rail trail.
Okay. Like through the easement area?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Anything else on that, Val?
No, that's
For
okay.
now, okay. So I have a list of, this is in, Bart's memo to us, things we should actually talk about. I'm gonna take them out of order here, but signage, is there any intention for any kind of signage for your business, or
No signage.
no signage? Okay. Stormwater management we talked about. Lighting, is there gonna be any site lighting, any lighting on the building, any wall packs or anything like that?
Any lighting that would be very minimalist and downward pointing, but the intention is to have no
excuse me, you just have to introduce yourself too, please.
Michael Brown, architect. So we would do decorative lighting on the buildings themselves and no floodlights of any kind.
Okay.
It did, yeah. Did die? I did die.
Something like
Let's see. See if it's unplugged.
There we go.
Oh, there we go.
the batteries.
Is it dead? You just want to repeat that? Sorry.
Sure. So the lighting intentions for the buildings are for decorative lighting on the buildings themselves, not anything that would flood the area with light.
I'll turn this from the battery's dead on here.
You're on now, or hopefully.
She's coming back.
Okay. What about grading on site? Is this intended to be all the grading that's going to be done on site? You know, you have septic and you have the first floor and you have some grading around the building. Is there any other part of the site going to be graded?
No,
So it's just existing grading is going to
Pretty
stay
much,
the
yeah.
way it is. So this is grading plan.
yeah.
Okay. Landscaping? Any? You don't have much room, but is there any fancy landscaping going to happen?
Yeah, we've laid out the space for a few decorative trees along the trail, just to make it a little bit nicer. Also, as appropriate, a little bit, maybe some decorative shrubs or things back here. But there's not, as you said, there's not a lot of room, so
Right.
probably 3 nice maple trees or oak trees or similar along the trail line.
Right, right.
I don't know if you've been down there recently, but there's a lot of work that's already been done to kind of improve the site condition.
Yeah.
So we'll just take that forward.
Okay. What about like a construction sequencing, storm erosion control type of stuff? Do you have a plan for that
I don't have a plan for that
at this
right
point?
now.
Okay. All right, that's my list. Does anybody else have any? Well, go ahead, Bill, I'm sorry.
I think the intent is to be providing the rest of the material that we need to meet the other regulations that you haven't requested waivers for, correct?
Or like the septic approval.
Landscaping plans,
Landscaping.
yeah,
Lighting.
construction, everything else in our,
Do you need a separate,
in
like
the
a-
site plan regs, you haven't
Yeah.
asked for waivers for many sections.
are they applicable for this?
I think you need to go through,
I think so, because
Yeah.
it's a site plan, so I think it
Correct.
triggers. Again, if you're not gonna do any, it's okay to ask for waivers. Not, you know, I mean, that's,
I just think you need to go through our site plan regs and say, I need
Right.
that, I don't need that. And if you're feeling like you want a waiver from that, that needs to be accounted for.
How specific does the landscaping plan need to be? Does it need to be on its own title block, same landscaping plan with these 3 new trees on there, or are you looking for more than that?
if you're gonna do more than that, then, no, if it fits on this
Fits the
plan
plan.
and is
Yeah.
legible and all that, that's
I think
fine.
that's all the landscaping you plan on doing, other than, fences and.
And fences are on the plan.
Oh, that's right, there's a chain link fence and a,
Yeah, there's fencing
Split rail
to
fence.
keep people away from the rail and
Yep.
improve the safety.
yep,
To the extent that the board could take a perspective of allowing me to move forward with positive energy and efforts towards actually getting this project done for the town versus paperwork, it would be greatly appreciated.
sure.
So, pardon, would you advise that we ask for waivers on those items that are remaining?
If you don't feel like it's anything you're gonna do, then I would ask for waivers.
Okay.
And again, just like this other one, doesn't have to be too complicated. One of the questions though is, could you explain to people where the different fences are?
There's a fence that runs along the parking area today that's delineated with old granite blocks to help people from stopping parking on the lawn. That would be like a post and rail kind of fence that will run along the access easement on both sides. And then there will be a chain link fence that's around the septic area from the last parking space down to the property line, which will keep the public from crossing onto the railroad tracks there. It won't stop people from going across the railroad tracks, obviously on the rail trail, which they do, and it is a public safety issue, but the area that I can control, I'll control. And then the fence will run basically down to this point. There's no reason here, 'cause this is all vegetation and a natural stone wall that delineates the property on the backside.
When you say the fence is gonna run along that, is that the chain link fence? Or
This is gonna be.
the other, no, the other
post
side,
and
down there at the bottom, where you just, no, right
rail.
there.
Right here,
Yep.
this will be post and rail.
Post and rail, okay.
Decorative.
So the area you have chain link fence is for safety purposes,
Around
keep
the
people
septic
out
and
of the,
keep people out of the septic and safety area.
so the question is, do we?
It's not prohibited in this zone. They're in the M3, right?
Right.
It's not, yeah, he can use a chain
Yeah,
link fence.
okay, that's fine, I just wanna make sure,
Yeah.
so. Does anybody else have any questions, comments?
Is there already a water hookup down to the?
There's a
building?
water hookup, right about this
No,
location
to the
here.
existing building.
Not to the existing
Okay.
building.
So
No,
that'll be a new
tie-in.
hookup.
It's
Okay.
very close.
So,
And is water, and water's not proposed to go to the barn?
No reason for water at the barn.
Is the proposed walkway concrete? The proposed walkway from the building out around the front, is some material on that?
Probably use a stone paver, like a natural stone paver with grass in between.
so if there's no signage, we're really, lighting is really the only, if I'm looking at this, there's a landscaping on the plan, which, I mean, I don't think we require a specific, something like this, a specific plan.
It's in new fields though, the landscaping.
Oh, that's right, it's in Milford, that's right. Good point.
Isn't this all falling under minor anyway?
Seems to be.
I'm, based on this discussion
Oh,
here,
just the parking.
which is, basically it's already there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's up to the pleasure of the board, but based on this discussion here, and getting some insight on some of this, I'm okay with this, and I don't necessarily think they need to come back with a whole nother plan for a lot more detail. I think we could do a conditional approval if the board would.
I do have one
Well,
question, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Can you describe the cafeteria? Is it for the business itself? Is it gonna public access?
No public access, so, what I'm trying to do is make sure there's some optionality if I were to ever sell the building down the road. Right now, what's gonna be in there is probably, not even, any actual cooking materials. It's gonna be very small, like a service refrigerator and maybe a single burner or something like that.
So you're just allowing for the possibility of something. to
Correct,
go
and
there.
that's like the septic system is oversized for what I need. I just wanna make sure that there's some potential to get a return at some distant point in the future, by building it correctly.
That's a question that I'm not sure the answer to this one. Is there a setback from side lot lines for dumpster pads? That I don't know the answer to.
I don't think so. Seems as though it's an
Accessory
Structure.
Only for sheds, I believe.
Yeah. I don't think so. Because we have plenty of instances in town.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
is the dumpster buffer, I mean, we're used to seeing a lot more details on the plans, especially if it's falling under major. Like, is the dumpster have a stockade fence around it?
It looks like it.
Yeah, there's the same kind of
It-
fence.
But it's not called out on the plan unless I'm missing it?
Yeah,
It's just showing
it's
the
wood.
line type.
Of the wood
The
rail.
dumpster's up here, yeah.
Yep.
There's no detail. So do the board want details?
No, so that, I see what you're saying, Val.
And again, appreciating the need for regulations, but realistically, just, practically what I'll do here, I'll probably generate a bag of compost materials ever to go into a dumpster. I mean, this will be my coffee grinds and
Yeah.
somewhat other organic materials.
I just wanted to make sure if you needed some release that.
No, I
you
totally
understood
appreciate the
that.
need to be compliant, so now that
Well, we're not-
just wanted you to know what I'm actually
Yeah,
doing.
Yeah.
I was kind of wondering why you need a dumpster for.
It's on the plan, I'd
Yeah.
love to not have one, I don't see why I would need one, it's an unnecessary expense.
Yeah. Yeah, and for the next potential sale, obviously.
No, that's just, you know, that's the issue. Why is this really a major site plan review?
Right.
And having to go through all the items under, you know,
Yeah,
section 4.
it probably technically is, but I'm, you know, I mean, again, if you don't need a dumpster, I'd rather not see a dumpster.
Be happy to make that condition to take the
Yeah.
dumpster off the plan, and if we ever want one,
And my only concern is
come
would
back
be,
and request it.
I believe you, but like I said, if you sell the building, somebody could come in there and put a dumpster there, and,
Yeah, I think, I might have been a mistake on our part, I believe we needed to show it, so it's
No,
it's
no,
not
no.
an intention to
Yeah.
want to have it.
oh, no, that's, it's easier to have us tell you to take it off than to add it. What's the rest of the board think?
So do the, again, going back to regs, do the number of parking spaces actually meet the requirements for the proposed use?
Or does he meet?
Scott, do you want to speak to that?
Again, that's overkill for the current proposed use, but again, that's for the office, business and service, use down the road. So if you look at note number 7 on the site
Yeah,
plan,
so
it
you-
lists out the number of spaces that we designed it for.
So you need 11 for the proposed use?
Yes, and we've
Under the
provided
regs.
13 and 1 van accessible.
Okay.
And again, going back to the purpose of the design, the reason that it's worth leaving those on there is because we do believe the public will consume those right now.
Yeah, no, we're looking at approving a site plan, not that you have any intentions to do this, but the site plan goes with the land,
Yeah,
not with the owner,
understood.
right? So someone could move in there tomorrow after this is approved, and my question is, do the current number of parking spaces
Understood.
for this business use meet the regulation?
Yeah,
Because
understood.
They could have no parking out or parking for business use only. And thank you for answering.
What's the total square footage of new redevelopment in Newmarket? 2,100?
Yeah, I don't have the exact numbers for that because the town line goes right through
Right
it.
through the
Yeah.
building.
But their parking is
Yeah.
based on the whole
Yeah.
site, right, 994 for the,
So I would say it just barely triggers major.
Okay.
Yeah.
That might be worth revisiting.
I agree.
so what does everybody else think?
I think it's a great project. Appreciate a lot of the thought that has gone into it, certainly the team that's here. You know, obviously love the idea that, you know, you're stating for the record your intent is to keep this open for the public and, you know, kind of expand on what we're trying to do as a town with creating more recreation down potentially in this area. Obviously, it's going to add to the tax base significantly vis-a-vis what is there currently. So I just think that this is a positive plan.
Oh, I agree,
And
it's a
I
great
don't
public
have
use
any
already.
issues relative to the, you know, to the public impacts.
So let me throw this out there for the board to consider. Based on what our regulations say, we're supposed to have a lighting plan. I'm okay with a conditional approval, subject to a lighting plan that meets our requirements to be approved by BART, or a letter that says you're not gonna do any lighting, whatever the case may be,
Or request for a waiver.
or a request for a waiver, right?
Or
Or,
obtaining a waiver.
and just add notes under this plan about the general construction sequencing. You know, it's gonna be done first, second, you know, not real in-depth, just so people know what to expect. I'm okay with a vote to approve if we get those conditions. I don't think we need to make this more complicated than it already is.
I agree.
And there's no wetlands here.
Correct.
So you're not interested in any kind of erosion control plan?
Yeah, no, I talked about that. Yeah, we should,
Okay.
as part of the construction, we should have an erosion control, just a silt fence line or something when you, added to a plan.
There'll be some temporary fencing too for
Sure.
protection and safety, so
Yep.
we'll do that in
Yep.
the plan.
Yep. And I'm fine with conditioning all that as part of the approval. I mean, one of the things that has been said is, this property has been used by the public for a long time, and this is gonna allow that to happen, so I think it's a win-win for the town.
Is everything still based on the state coming through though, correct?
I'm sorry?
Everything is still based on the fact that the state will do their work, correct, or no?
No, everything,
do it
and I
either
did
way.
say, and again, for the record, and as you mentioned, Valerie, it's for public record, my intention is to keep this available to the public.
Yeah, no,
So the state, the only thing I haven't done is given the state an easement at this point.
I think that's my question though. So that happens when the state does their part.
Yeah.
That's what I just want to make sure. Still.
Correct,
Okay.
yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
He doesn't want to
Yep.
give them unless they commit to a parking
I would
lot.
be wearing the same pair of
Yeah.
shoes you're wearing.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, as you can imagine, they're asking me to pay for the site plan reviews for their lot. And
Yep,
it's just a difficult process to understand.
Yep. Thank
So,
you.
Have you been in front of Newfields yet?
I have not.
Okay.
I was in front of Newfields a couple years ago. They were very supportive, but I think this board is respectfully more thorough than perhaps the Newfields board. So I thought coming here first would allow me to iron out the issues. No disrespect to anybody from Newfields watching.
Well, most of the impacts are in Newmarket, right, the septic,
Yeah.
the parking, basically, so.
What-
access.
Yeah. I'm just thinking for vesting, what's your proposed timeline, ideally?
In an ideal scenario, we would be starting the project in early fall. So we would have some work happening this fall, and I don't know, Michael, I'm not going to hold you to this date, but would you say 12 to 14 months to complete everything?
Yeah.
Somewhere in that neighborhood. Maybe 10 months if we push.
Wait for good weather.
We realize we'll need to maintain access to the trail, and we'll have to have temporary fencing. Temporary access because we have to get across, get the building across that area, which is current access. So that's one of the more complicated pieces of the actual construction.
And that's, the good news is that temporary access along the back ridge of the property, now that it's all grass, we can easily fence out an area for the public to get across the property without a problem.
Right.
Yeah, Sean already did considerable work to this area to make it possible.
Alrighty,
Actually, I have
Yeah.
another question. Sorry. So if the state takes 5 years to come through on building this road, so I assume you'll have a temporary road that heads into the barn for.
Oh, that road
And-
is
and-
already gonna be there no matter what. It's not for the state. That's the rail easement for the railroad. So that
Right,
road
but I
is
mean
there.
like a semi-improved entrance up into it, because it looks like it ties into the road that may be proposed to be built.
Well,
And then,
he'll have to build out this whole project within the time period for vesting.
right, but not, because you can see where the current gravel is,
Right.
and then we'll have to build this out. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think what he's saying is he's gonna build that road no matter what, because, I mean, you need to put the septic in,
Right.
and that's part
And
of
then
it.
your fence curves along it and everything,
Correct.
and so the fence might be there before the state actually produces.
Oh, definitely.
in that.
The only thing that I'm saying is I just want them to recognize that the public access easement is something I haven't granted yet. And then
Yeah.
again, we're probably making too much over it. I should probably just give it to them, but it's just a way to say, please do your part and build
Yeah.
your parking lot.
Right.
But everything else will be complete, so.
Any other questions, comments, thoughts? Anybody willing to make a motion?
Can you just go over the 2 conditions again?
Well, so my conditions would be, a lighting plan is provided to you,
Yep.
to your satisfaction. Another condition is we need sedimentation erosion controls for construction. And we need general construction sequencing added to the plan.
And then the last thing is vesting
And impact fees.
and impact fees, yeah.
I would propose a 2-year completion of the, site plan improvements, to vest the property, vest the site plan.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Anybody else?
Vesting. Does,
And
the planner have any other additional?
I
If we do move this to conditional approval?
I think,
impact, we need to talk about impact fees?
impact fees, and then I think,
Or just subject to impact fees?
Hmm?
It would just be subject to
Yes,
impact fees?
subject, yeah. And then, does the board want to consider if the use changes, to, at some point down the line? It might be already in the regs, but to make it, to emphasize it, to come back for a minor, review, amendment if the use changes.
I think
I
if the
don't.
use changes on a site plan, they have to come back to
Yeah,
us.
but just,
Because it's only
right.
approved for this use.
Right.
You know, as specified here and in the application.
Yep. And then, I guess, does the board want to see, since it's already kind of delineated on the site plan already, if the state comes through, with the parking lot in Newfields, the accesses from Newmarket, intensity will increase. Does the board want to see a revised site plan, if the road's gonna be upgraded or not?
I don't wanna see that. I don't know what everybody else thinks.
Well, just to be clear, if we're voting the motion to approve the site plan, it would be my understanding this road is being completed as part of this site plan.
Correct.
Is
This
that-
is
And that was Jeff's question.
potential,
Jeff said
right?
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's gonna build,
no,
yeah, so
this
yes.
needs to be
So
built
the road
out.
will
Right,
be built
okay.
as part of
Okay.
that.
Correct.
Yep.
That's all I have.
So I will make a motion to approve the site plan requested by Sean McGowan to permit the renovation of the Rockingham Rail Depot to include the relocation of the existing 994 square foot building onto a new foundation, moving the building further from the rail line, adding a 995 square foot addition, all to be used as office space, and a 960 square foot parking barn. The lot is located at 3 Rockingham Junction, tax map R3, lot 13A in the B1 zone, subject to the following conditions. The applicant provide a sedimentation and erosion control plan, a lighting plan, and general construction sequencing notes on the plan, as well as correct plan errors such as adding note 7 regarding the existing right-of-way. And said plans to be satisfactory to the town of Newmarket's planner. This site plan would also be subject to impact fees, and that we would define vesting as completion of the site plan as approved within a 2-year period. Did that?
With that, I think you hit everything.
You know,
Is there a second?
second,
Second, and Patrick, he raised his hand first.
so he can have it. I give it to you.
Any discussion?
Yes.
Yeah.
Close public hearing.
I hereby close the public hearing. Any discussion? All right, all in favor of approving the site plan? Say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Congratulations, good luck.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
you.
the board's support.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, I don't see Mike Seifert here yet. All right, so we're gonna.
Pretty close second.
Yeah. So we will take, I'm gonna take out of order the stormwater regulations. So pursuant to RSA 675:7, the planning board shall hold a public hearing to amend both the site plan and subdivision regulations of the town of Newmarket intended to modify section 3.03 stormwater management of appendix A subdivision in section 3.07 stormwater management of appendix B, site plan review. You create a new section titled appendix C, stormwater management regulations, or take any other action relative thereto. So, I will open up the public hearing. I will note that Mr. Bill Arcieri, who helped the town and basically wrote these new regulations, is here to answer any questions that may be asked. For the general public, I guess I'll say that basically this regulation update is required by the MS4 permit that was recently approved, what was that, a year ago, 2 years ago now? Anyway, so what we've decided to do is, rather than have stormwater regulations in both the planning board and subdivision, the site plan and subdivision regulations, is we have created a stormwater section of our regulations. Most of these regulations are very, very close to what was previously in place. The thresholds remain the same, but there are some more details necessary to meet the new requirements. And with that, I will invite Mr. Bill Arcieri to, Bill, could you just give everybody a quick rundown like you have before of what the differences are between current and proposed regulations, please?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. My name is Bill Arcieri from VHB. I have been helping the town on this plan regulation updates, actually going back to 2017, and then just recently started again in the last few months, starting in December. The main, I don't know the easiest way to sort of summarize the changes, but a lot of this was a reformatting more than anything. There is a few new sections. There's a new section E that was construction erosion control standards. There's a new section H, which is a stormwater BMP and inspection maintenance plan requirement. There's a new section I, which is new pollutant tracking and accounting program submittal requirements for projects that trigger the disturbance thresholds. And then the biggest new section is section F, which lays out the stormwater standards from a minimum level and then an enhanced level for larger projects. And the disturbance threshold that distinguishes between the minimum and the enhanced end is it's 5,000. Let me make sure I get this right. So the minimum is any project that disturbs at least 5,000 square feet, or 2,500 square feet within a within 100 feet of a surface water body. So that is a change, and that we're including some of these smaller projects. In fact, that last project would have triggered that probably if it was within 100 feet of a water body.
But Bill, not actual disturbance, but creation of impervious.
No,
5,000.
disturb 5,000 square feet.
We have under here, under 18, a proposed site plan or subdivision application meeting the definition of new development will disturb more than 20,000 square feet of area or add more than 5,000 square feet of impervious area.
What page is that?
18. I think that's what we had agreed to. So the disturbance is more than 20,000 square feet, or if the project is adding more than 5,000 square feet of impervious area.
Yes, so that triggers the enhanced thresholds.
Okay.
If we go to page 11, I think, section C at the bottom. On A, so all proposed new development and redevelopment projects disturbing more than 5,000 square feet, and probably should put the square feet in there, but less than 20,000 square feet of area will disturb more than 25,000 square feet within about 100 feet of surface water body should comply with the following stormwater requirements to the maximum extent practical, except parts B, and C of section F, which are the enhanced standards. So that is a change. That is a new lower threshold for smaller projects. And that was in the draft that started in 2017 and carried forward into this draft here.
Yeah, I, for some reason, I thought we had kept the thresholds the same.
For the enhanced treatment, they are the same.
Yep.
20,000
Yep.
square feet disturbance or adding 5,000 square feet
Of
of
impervious.
impervious area.
Okay.
And that gets into hitting removal efficiencies for stormwater BMPs, or in a redevelopment situation, treating a certain amount of impervious area in section F. So, yeah, wanted to point that out.
Bill, was there any more background on that? I remember when we were talking about this, when we were working on this draft, and there was a reason. Was that Kyle giving us some recommendation there as well, the regional planner?
It also came out of the Southeast Watershed Alliance model regulations. And the intent there was to more or less make sure that smaller projects were doing erosion control practices, as well if they were redirecting drainage or adding a new discharge or doing something different with drainage, that they did put the adequate provisions in. It's particularly if they were within 100 feet of water. So it was kind of erosion control and change of drainage. Now, a lot of projects, might not, that past project, it may have hit the disturbance threshold, but it may have been without more than 100 feet from the water body, I'm not sure. But those are the kind of projects, and you obviously have the prerogative to waive those requirements if it's not applicable. So, again, this was, a sense or an intent to not only deal with the larger projects, but the smaller projects as well, because there was nothing, I guess, in the regs that would bring a smaller project to address these issues. I don't have a sense for the average size of projects in Newmarket. I'm sure there's a lot of small ones.
The project that we just approved would have to meet under F, Part A.
Yes.
Yeah, which includes drainage analysis.
Yeah, total impacts.
Yeah.
Because that would include the parking area, that road coming in, the buildings, the sidewalks.
But they could request a waiver just the same.
Correct.
As they did.
Yep. It's not applicable. I mean, they weren't really adding any impervious area, really. They weren't gonna change drainage all that much.
They would have been requesting a waiver to Part A.
Right.
Or portion, perhaps sections under Part A.
It could have been, yeah, that's the way I would view it moving forward, because there's some good, easy, tangible items in here that people can do, so maybe it's just a partial waiver. I mean, they could request it, but as the board's reviewing it.
The other more interesting aspect, we did add this section G, which allows an off-site mitigation for redevelopment if they couldn't meet the redevelopment treatment requirements on the project. This is more of an option than a strict requirement. but it allows, in a really tough situation where they couldn't provide stormwater treatment, it allows for outside stormwater treatment.
Pay to play.
Get out of jail card.
Just, the enhanced stormwater treatment, those pollutant removal efficiencies that are in section F, B, and C, those requirements were in the current regs as well. So it's not much of a change there, except for the redevelopment piece. Redevelopment is,
And we
Is a little
didn't, one of the new things, right, we have the PTAP requirements now too, right?
The
Yes.
reporting, right?
Yes.
one minor typo part on
I was picking up a couple.
page 11 again of the minimum threshold available. That first paragraph that ends with, according with C, F parentheses, I think that's C6, which is the grant waivers.
What's that one, Bill?
What line?
Yeah, which line under one? You're under one?
The last line, first paragraph, those explicitly obtaining relief from the planning board in accordance with C5. C5 is the EPA construction general permit. I think C6 is the one where
It should be
Intended.
C6.
Yes.
yes, that's right. Yeah. You said line, I should have been following the line.
And then you need to add the square foot under by 5,000, or, and then that, or less than 20 square foot area, or will disturb more than 2,500 square feet. Just
All
that.
right, take the ing off.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah, line 427. Disturbing should be disturbed.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your work.
Yeah.
Is there
Pleasure.
anybody, while Bill's still there, is any board members have any questions for Bill?
This makes us fully compliant, right?
It does, yes.
Great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Is there anybody from the public who has any questions? All right, hearing none. Any board members have any further questions? I will close the public hearing at 8:03 and entertain a motion to approve the revised or the updated regulations.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Bill. Thank you for all your help. Take care.
So here's an administrative issue. These were posted prior to us accepting the last application, correct? Because we just accepted.
Yes, it was.
So we should we waived 307 of the existing regulations. But I think we may want on record a waiver from Appendix C. Because they theoretically would have been having to not theoretically, but under the regulations, would have had to have been applying to meet this
So
regulation.
we'll look into that and then whatever regulations that they get waivers from.
And then have a motion or something. Maybe they can just send a letter,
Yes.
and then we can codify it.
Yep.
All right, so, are you guys ready to go, or do you want us to take a 5-minute recess?
Mike hasn't messaged me back, so I'm
Okay.
guessing he's still busy, yeah.
Okay, so, next on the agenda there will be a public hearing for an application for design review for proposed redevelopment of 3 Railroad Street requested by CC5 Railroad Street. The proposal is to construct an 8-unit residential building with lots are located at 3 Railroad Street, tax map U3, lot 138 in the M2A zone. Good evening.
Hi, how are you
Please
today?
introduce yourself. Excellent. Please introduce yourself.
I am Ben Stebbins. I'm the owner of CC5 Railroad Street LLC. And we wanted to come tonight just to start conversations about this project that we're hoping to get going on. The main focus I want to talk about is when I redeveloped 86 Main Street in Newmarket. There was a lot of steps I went through for a major site plan review that we found out wasn't really applicable to doing 86 Main. So I wanted to have a conversation prior to spending all the money and looking and figure out what's required to get this going. What we plan to do with the project is remove this shed right here, remove all this impervious soil, and stay within the footprint of the existing building. By doing so, Mike will have the calculations for our next meeting, but we're decreasing the impervious soil by a good amount on this site. We are able to have enough parking, but we decided to decrease the parking on this side of the building to, again, decrease impervious soil. So we're 4 spots short. We do have an agreement with where Horizon Engineering is, that tenants can park there while Horizon isn't open. So we just wanted to start conversations about this and see what the board thought and go from there.
So you'll be going to the ZBA for the residential
We have,
waiver, relief from parking requirements?
yes, so we did discuss it at ZBA. Unfortunately, we didn't vote on it completely. So we are going back in July to get that waiver. I don't see it as an issue. In conversations that we had with them, they were all about the complementary use with Horizon Engineering.
Anybody else? Scott, do you have any questions? Mikhail? Patrick?
Well, so you say there's an agreement with this engineering firm for parking in perpetuity?
So we own that lot as well. So we're able to allow parking there. There is 1.25 spots for every unit right now. The requirement in town is 2, which we don't typically see 2 spots needed per unit.
Yeah, because parking's at a premium in that part of town. There's
Well-
little or no parking.
So there's an
Walk
empty
around.
lot that's never
Yeah.
really used right here on Railroad
Municipal
Street.
lot.
The municipal lot?
Yeah, so that lot is also empty that you can rent overnight spots for I think it's $40 a month through the town.
I wasn't aware you could rent those spots. So what is it, they have to be out by a certain hour so the employees can park there?
I don't know if
No. I don't
No,
believe
it's
so.
No,
just
so-
a municipal lot,
Just
like
municipal.
downtown.
Yeah, exactly.
Bay Road, you
Yeah,
can
on-
rent spaces.
I was on the parking commission, and one thing we really talked about is how underuse that lot is. So it was a big push to get people working downtown to park down there to open up more spots. But if you ever need a parking spot, you can almost be guaranteed there's open spots there.
So your variance from the ZBA will just to be able to waive the requirement for on-site residential parking.
Correct.
Okay. Because with the planning board, we don't have the ability to waive that. We can waive commercial.
Under this
under
scenario,
M2A.
the board cannot because it's also a special exception. Special use permit. So those typically can't be waived unless the variance is granted.
Yeah.
So typically under site plan review, you could, which is not the case.
So we would be able to waive, if they grant the variance for residential as opposed to commercial, right? Then, but still under site plan, we would still control the number of parking spaces required.
If a variance is granted, then that can
condition on the special use permit won't apply. But you can still have that conversation about parking.
Right.
Yeah. There's also one more variance, for the building itself. Typically, it's, only, if it's residential only, be 4 units per building.
Right.
What's being proposed now is 1 building with 8 units. So that'll be the other variance.
So they're before the ZBA for 2 variances?
Correct. They already received special exception approval, and a variance for the, land area per dwelling unit.
So will you be requesting any waivers from the planning board relative to site plan review?
I believe there is. Sorry, I'm looking through Mike's notes. The big one was, are we gonna do a major site plan review and go through all of the items, or would the board be okay since we are decreasing the impervious soil and pretty much using the foundation that's there, so it could almost be considered a extreme renovation, if we have to go through a major site plan review?
Does it technically trigger a major site plan review?
That's what we'll do. I don't think from the square footage retail standpoint, it's gonna get the use.
And I mean, I think, well, I don't know what the area of impact is, but we just talked about the new stormwater regs.
Right.
But they're reducing the impervious, so that would seem worthy
Yeah,
of
I
a
caught on to
waiver.
his, one thing he said was if you're decreasing it,
Yeah.
that sounds like you can get a,
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense if you're decreasing.
correct.
So what's the intention there, where it's gravel now, you're gonna
So right
plant
now,
grass, landscaping, is that the intention?
The gravel comes all the way
Yep.
down around here.
Yep.
We're gonna be doing grass and some
Yep.
landscaping. The other thing, Mike, so this will all go away, all this impervious soil.
Yep.
The other thing Mike's working on is what is gonna be here for the parking is add in some more impervious soil here as well. Through add-ins.
So take out a whole bunch and add some in different
Yeah.
location to grade, to make it for parking?
Correct, and then we're taking out, this shed right here
Yep.
as well.
Yep, okay.
And like I said, parking, I know it's a hot topic in Newmarket. I've dealt with it a lot. We are able to add enough spots to this unit, but our goal is to decrease the impervious soil, instead of increasing.
Right.
Yeah, so under 105C2, it triggers a major review. Establish a multifamily use where no multifamily use currently exists. So you would need a waiver for major site plan review.
Or it'd be an itemized waiver too, of certain, performance standards, as you might go through it, requesting those waivers.
Okay.
Under what's required under major? I
Correct.
think that's a
Yeah.
good, that would make sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I honestly, without knowing the specific details, have no issue with granting waivers. This is a site that everybody in town knows about, and it's
It's falling apart.
completely impervious pretty much, and this, doing something to that site would be good, and, so I mean, I can't sit here and say we'll support all the waivers, but I personally am predisposed to support waivers if they're practical.
Yeah, I think that was a big thing Mike and I discussed, is with the new development that's going further down, it's really gonna help the creek where there's large issues, by decreasing a lot of this
Yep.
impervious.
And I would suggest, as you go through the process, to come in and meet with Bart, and go through everything with Bart, and then, Bart you can update us and whatnot.
Yeah. I think we just wanna gauge the temperature of the board.
Yeah, I think is another potentially great project in town, where we take an old decrepit building.
Urban region, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, and
Yeah.
get some more residential use that we need
And one thing for me is time. I'm definitely trying to speed up this project because I'm trying to take advantage of the NH Invest that just came out, where the town gets 10,000 per unit, and then I also get some financial help to build this unit by keeping it some workforce housing. So my goal would be to try to come back to the board in July. I'm hoping to go to the ZBA in June.
Yeah, June 27th.
June 27th to get the additional waivers.
Okay. So my thoughts on it would be, though, that you should explain to Mike that he needs to come up with a solid site plan and solid explanation for why you want the waivers. I'm not supportive of just granting the waivers for the sake of granting them. You need to give us a reason. And, decreased impervious may be a reason, things like that.
I think each one will stand on its own.
Right, exactly. Lighting, landscape, I have no idea what your plans are. Sometimes that's easier just to do than to ask for a waiver.
Yeah, Mike was saying he has someone that can do the lighting.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
everything, so.
yeah, absolutely. Where it's located and because it's, you said 8 units, correct?
Correct.
I don't see any need for traffic study of any type. I don't throw that out to any other board members if you think that trips any requirements. I don't think it does. We'll talk about impact fees when we get there, right? Another thing that I guess on the list here that is always an issue is snow storage. Mike knows that.
Yep.
Like previous meeting, you heard us talk about erosion control, that kind of stuff on the plan just makes it easy for us to, one less thing that has to be conditioned if we get to that, if we get that far. I guess that for me, that's about it. Anybody have anything else?
Or if you look details,
What type of details are we talking?
The landscaping plan would be important.
Yeah.
Just because this is really the growth of the urban center. And especially with the connectivity to the municipal park, we hope that does get used at some point. We hope there is more urban infill up in this area and more public uses.
Yeah. Did you say Mike has somebody, is that what you said? Mike has somebody who does landscape?
I know he does for lighting.
Oh, lighting, okay.
Yeah, landscape I can
Okay, yeah.
find something. Probably not going to be
Doesn't have to be,
crazy detail, but
no, it doesn't have to be
yeah.
fancy, but
Yep.
something that looks good
Yep.
subjectively.
So the
What about the building itself? Is it?
So there should be on your handout.
Yeah.
How tall is the current building?
I do not. I would say around 35 feet would be my guess. 30 feet.
And the
somewhere around
proposed
there.
building? There's 34, 6. So you're not
Yeah.
proposing to really increase the
Not.
height of the building?
I'm guessing it's increased a little bit, but not substantial. I think this zone allows 45 feet.
you also receive special exception
I received the
Yeah,
special
from
exception
ZBA.
as well. Yeah.
for increased vertical expansion.
Yeah, my architect did 8'6" floor to floor right now, so we can, if height is an issue, we could always go down to 8.
Do you need to talk to the railroad at all about this, just out of curiosity?
We've
they have
notified them.
Do they have a process where they permit stuff?
They don't have any
Just-
easements or anything like that within this.
They're just in a butter?
Okay.
I was going to ask about that note number 5 on the plan that mentions the state of New Hampshire has an easement 39.5 feet on either side of the center line, and what that easement was. Because presumably the building is basically, I mean, it looks like it by scale that maybe within, it's probably within 49.5 feet of the center. The baseline.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
But I do say it says this is not a
Oh,
boundary
certainly,
survey,
because
so-
just look, well,
Yeah.
the building itself is almost 24 feet wide.
Not sure what that easement's for, or if it's restrictive.
I'd have to look more into that.
I was also curious about the boundary along, how it's dashed. 'Cause
Yeah.
still, if they're going to finalize that boundary, so the setback or the distance off the boundary would be unknown. Because it appears, it looks like a boundary survey, but it's not quite complete.
Yeah, so, if you, I think this second one, more detail, I had it resurveyed, I mean, this one doesn't have it, but we just finished resurveying the whole area, so the next plan will be more detailed, telephone map and everything.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
Well, it'll be
so
a
those are
survey
two
plan,
notes.
right?
Those are two notes, I think,
Need a
that
survey
that are
plan.
valid, that,
Yeah, exactly.
you know, we need to see if there is an impact from the easement, the state easement.
Yeah.
And, like Jeff was saying, that boundary line along the railroad, looks like it needs to be hardened.
I'm guessing because there's an existing building there, that the easement, would not play a big role into it.
Yeah.
But I'll definitely take a look at it.
Unless the state told you to tear down the portion that's in their easement.
Well, this,
Or if it was for a specific,
Right.
it could be for a specific
Yeah.
use.
well, I mean, back in the day, this was owned by the railroad, and they
Right.
conveyed it over,
Right.
so.
I think the point, probably too, is that obviously, I can't imagine we would waive the requirement to have a surveyed site plan.
Yeah, that's all been done, so.
Right.
Yeah.
And maybe have that, these proposed parking, alternatives that you're offering on the plan, so we can see exactly where they are.
Yep.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, you know, I would, that is a real good idea.
Off-site parking.
You know, say off-site parking is available, you know, 100
Yeah.
feet across the street in the
So,
top
yeah,
municipal
I
parking
can
lot.
show it's
right
this
there.
parking lot right here.
Yeah, I'm just thinking more for the public or people that
Yep.
might review it, wonder where the parking is.
Well, I mean, that brings up a point is if, and I know you said you own that parcel, if that's gonna be an easement for parking here, then we would wanna, that's gonna have to be a
So there
permanent
wouldn't be
easement.
an easement, the board is allowed to, pass it just without,
No, I get that,
Yeah.
but, with the parking you have now, or, you know, you're gonna be getting a
Yep.
variance for less parking,
I think you're gonna get a variance
For the board allowed.
for the board.
So it's a variance for special exception, or special use permit. So the board doesn't have to consider it.
no, right, but what I'm saying though is that, parking on another lot, that could be on our plan, it could disappear 2 days later.
Yeah, I think Patrick, I'd like to see the municipal lot labeled out here,
Yeah,
right, and a
That's
note
what I meant,
basically,
yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's where Patrick was going.
Yeah, that's where I was going with
Not,
that, was.
yeah, not the Horizon lot, but the
Yep.
municipal lot.
Yes, yep. That's what I thought he was going, then he pointed to the
Yeah.
other lot. Yep.
So in the future, if the lots are sold separately to separate owners, then easements would have to be granted for access?
the
Along that
easement's
driveway?
on the deed, so unless
Yeah.
you removed the easement, it's on there for,
It'll run with the land.
yeah.
Understood. Okay, so it's full, it doesn't specify use of the easement for access or area or anything like that. It's kind of like a blanket easement, says you can access.
It all depends how it's written, I mean, I can say, you know, easements for spot A, B, and C only
Right.
for, you know, it's,
Do you own both of these lots?
yes.
U 416 and U 3?
Yeah, it's, yeah, different total ownership, but yeah,
So are you planning to merge these?
No.
For this development?
no,
So the site that you're really proposing to develop is just U 3 138A?
correct.
And that's what we're talking about, meeting the parking requirements for 8 units on that on
Correct.
that .1 acre site.
Yep.
There's two lots being proposed in the building, parking spaces.
Or in the building.
Yeah.
So theoretically, the entire lot becomes impervious. Where currently now, some of it's gravel.
Not necessarily to the left of the proposed redevelopment, that could return to.
But that would be parking.
No.
I don't think so.
Oh, to the left?
To the left.
Okay.
So
Because
this
these they need
whole-
parking.
Right, yeah, that area.
But how do you get into the building? I thought you were coming in on that end.
So there's gonna be a little walk right here.
No, for the parking, the 2 in the building.
They're in-
To garage. So there's a
Front?
gate right here, there's a driveway.
Oh, in
Right.
Yeah, on the second sheet.
Oh, did I miss that?
Doesn't call it garage,
sorry.
It says
You can
gravel
see it
driveway.
there, yeah.
Much better.
Sorry, yeah, I see it. And that shows those are the 8 places right there on the second.
So, does anybody have any more questions? A lot of discussion? I mean, I think you heard that we're
Yeah.
supportive for the
Thank you.
most part. But if you would relay to Mike that he's gotta present us
Gotta show up.
reasons to, that too.
Yeah, that's already started.
And reasons to grant waivers,
Yeah.
not just we want a
Definitely.
waiver, so. Does anybody else have anything else to add? All right, that was a good discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Bring him up again.
Oh, yes, this one is gonna be unfortunately quick. Let's see. Oh, right here.
There's no reason to continue design review. Your next step would be coming in with an application, correct?
That's my goal.
Right, so, next is pursuant to 32-238F waivers of the municipal code for the town of Newmarket, New Hampshire, petitioner CC 86 Main Street LLC is requesting the planning board to waive the impact fees totaling $25,728 for redevelopment that converted a fraternal organization, the Mason Lodge, into 6 dwelling units located on real property with the address of 86 Main Street, tax map U2-53. So, before you start, my understanding is that the ZBA granted you relief of the impact fees.
A portion of the impact fees.
Well, okay. So there's 2 portions to what you're looking to get, correct? There's the impact fees, and then there's the unit hookup fees.
The unit hookup fees, which we have considered part of the impact fees because it comes under the statute.
Okay.
But so that we have been referring that to that as impact fees also.
But they're not under our regulations as impact fees, the hookups.
No, but there's still impact fees under the statute, I believe. So we realize there's a difference, and we want to talk about both of them. But what happened was, unfortunately, and tonight you've talked at all of your meetings about the impact fees. When this came before this board twice for approvals, and there was never a discussion of impact fees. It also went before the ZBA. There was no discussion of impact fees. The plans were reviewed by the building inspector, and a certificate of a building permit was issued. There was no discussion of impact fees. Then at the very end, when all the inspections had been completed and everything was ready, the building inspector assessed for the first time $25,000 worth of impact fees. And the statute is very clear that you really need to do it either at the planning board level or before the building permit is issued. And the reason that it's a problem that they did it, that the building inspector did it, made a real error in doing it when he did rather than doing it when he was supposed to, is we would have been here for a waiver of this fee right up front. And the basis of the waiver of the fee for the impact on the hookups, which is the water hookups, is twofold. One is we've done an analysis. Your statute says if there's going to be less impact, there needn't be a fee assessed to it. And we've done an analysis which is contained in the petition that we filed that shows that the water needs that we're going to need for these 6 small apartments are less than the water needs that would be required for what the fraternal organization was doing, which was entertainment, bar, all sorts of events. And we've done the calculations based on general accepted standards, and there's about a 100-gallon
Decrease.
so that we felt that applied to that. We also looked at, we were talking to the people at 72 Main Street and who added 2 residential units to theirs with the approval, with all the approvals required, and they were never assessed an impact fee or hookup fees. So something has happened. You know, I know there's been a change in personnel and so forth, but something happened in the town that caused this to be dropped. And unfortunately, it puts us in a position where we didn't get to come to you before for the waiver. And what we've done is we've gone to the ZBA as required by your ordinance, and we've asked them basically to say that the building inspector made a mistake, he did something wrong, and that the fee thus should be waived. They've done that with regard to the $13,500, which is what you would call the impact fee, but they wanted us to come back here with regard to the other portion of it, which is the hookup fees. The developer has spent a significant amount of money on improving city sewer and water as part of this project. Would you like to address that?
Yeah, so we brought the new water line from Main Street, and we brought it up central 20 feet and replaced all of the town pipes there, along with 20 feet of new sewer line, replacing all the town's older pipes that were pretty corroded.
And I think this was at a cost that was much higher, substantially higher than the hookup fee. So what we're saying is what we've done for the infrastructure cost, I think the hookup fee is $12,000, and I think the expense that was incurred is 5 times that.
Sure.
So that we replaced all this piping that was just decayed and was necessary to be replaced, and we were glad to do it, but we think that to the extent that there would have been a hookup fee before, that should count towards it. We'd ask that there be a waiver from the planning board, which will really avoid us having to do any further dispute with the town, which we really don't want to do.
Sure.
About the process.
I apologize. I have to ask you your name and
Okay.
what for the record. I'm sorry.
I'm Henry Stebbins, and I'm an attorney,
Okay.
and I'm counsel for
Okay, that's fine.
CCAC.
So let me tell you my position on this. I don't want to speak for the board. Is I was not aware that hookup fees are considered an impact fee. In my mind, they're not an impact fee. They're a fee that people pay to hook up. So, having said that, I'm certainly not comfortable granting any kind of relief tonight. I think I would prefer that we send this to our town attorney to give us a recommendation. You know, and if it is an impact fee, then we can talk about it.
Okay.
That would be my take on it.
I would say that that 72 Main people were not charged hookup fees.
Yeah, but that's immaterial
But
to
that-
this discussion.
But it is.
I understand
because
what you're
it went
saying.
It went to our consideration of what was going to be anticipated.
Sure, but my point is just from a process standpoint, if it's not an impact fee, then we can't waive it. If it's an impact fee, then we have the ability to waive it. So we need to get that, I think I need to get that direction from our town attorney, because I've never seen a hookup fee called an impact fee
Hookup
before.
fees, I visualize more as when you do a new development and you bring water into a bunch of new buildings. You know,
Well,
and
yeah.
Yeah, that
there's
may-
already
that may be-
water and sewer in that building.
Yep.
Just increasing the size.
Yep, understood. I get the difference, but this, again, till tonight, I've never considered that an impact fee, so I'm not prepared to address it.
I would fully concur with that. I mean, our regulations are very specific as to what our impact fees are relative to recreation, school impacts for any new development or redevelopment of buildings and property. And as you've alluded to, the water and sewer impacts as to pre or post development. But Newmarket also has, under the Water and Sewer Department, their specific regulations as to what would trigger tie-in fees. which I don't believe, and I'm not an attorney, and I think I would concur, this should go over to the town's attorney. Under our impact fee regulations, which gives us the authority as the planning board to waive impact fees, water and sewer hookup fees or system utility charges, which is what is being adopted, is not under the purview of the planning board. So I'd love this to go to the town council.
So if I might, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
I don't have, I think that's a very good idea and a good proposal, but we have a time issue. Our time issue is that we need to go to Superior Court, which would be our next step, within 30 days of June 6th, which means we have to be into Superior Court early in July, and that's really what we're trying to avoid.
Have you met with the town administrator over this issue?
I've sent numerous emails saying, hey, let's put this money into escrow, let's all talk about it, and we did not get much feedback. And what the ordinance says is to go to the ZBA, and that's what we did, and they kicked it down the road, and now it's getting very...
Well, I see that you went to the ZBA, and
Twice.
but as far as the administrative appeal, I would assume is what you went to the ZBA for, and they granted that. So therefore, you weren't paying the impact fees under our ordinance because they weren't assessed at the time of which our ordinance specifically states they're supposed to be assessed either at the planning board level or at the planning board level if it's a site plan approval, like we did tonight as a condition of approval. And then also they're supposed to be actually assessed when the applicant, as has been explained, applies for the building permit. And then they have to be paid before the occupancy permit is issued. So I totally understand why the ZBA granted that administrative, appeal. But I just don't believe, as far as any type of water and sewer tie-in fees, which is the other portion that you're asking to be waived, is anywhere under the purview of the planning board based upon our regulations, the planning board. It could certainly be under the RSA, gives us purview, but I'd rather have the town attorney, speak to that.
And I agree.
And we're gonna run out of, this thing is gonna run out of time, but I don't see how we get around that. What's everybody think?
Agree. You have to go to the attorney, just for clarification.
I mean, John's pretty good at turning around,
Yeah,
his
the problem is we're not gonna meet
opinions.
before then. If July 6th is the deadline, you have to file. Our next meeting
If it's
won't be
not
till
under the purview of the planning board, then won't it be resolved?
With the water and sewer department and the town administrator.
That's what I'm saying. If the town attorney comes back and says the planning board has nothing to do with it, then they can proceed
In-
before
in
our
court.
next meeting.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then they'd be going to those regulations.
Yeah.
What triggers the water and sewer tie-ins, fees? Is it a change of use of the building? That could be in the regulation.
I mean, I think from a practical standpoint, if the town's attorney were to say that that's considered an impact fee, then I would think that I would support waiving it because it was too late when it was enacted, right? Much like the other ones. Yeah, it has to be before the building permit. It's either the planning board or before the building permit.
Or that we aired, and we'd have to go back to that hearing, right, in the motions and the developer's agreement, all of that, which is a condition of the approval. We'd have to then have Bart look into that to support whether or not we aired. And we could have.
Yeah.
If it wasn't in the developer's agreement.
Yeah, I don't doubt that it wasn't. Usually that's not something I think about when we're approving stuff as the impact fees. What's the rest of the board think? Patrick, what do you think?
I agree that we definitely need the opinion of the attorney, since this is a legal question sort of that's before us, and that we don't have any other guidance that we can go off of. But what we do know, it sounds like, is that we don't think this is an impact fee based on the information we have in front of us.
From our town
This
regulations,
water and
we
sewer
believe it's
hookup
not.
specifically, yeah.
Right.
We have not dealt with that issue in the past, it sounds like.
No.
So we wouldn't have any previous knowledge to go off of.
Right, and in the town's regulations or impact fees, it doesn't talk about that.
Right.
Now, I appreciate that he's saying that the statute says that is an impact fee, but that's why we need the lawyer to tell us.
Right.
So here's the question. So if John Madigan says it's not an impact fee, then it's out of our purview, and they would have to go to Superior Court to, if he says it is an impact fee, then we have the ability to waive it. So the question,
But we only have the ability to waive it under our regulations. There's very specific criteria as to why we can waive, you know, under our regulations.
right, but I hope the attorney can speak to that. Right, I mean, cause that, like, as far as our regulations are concerned, that's not an impact fee.
I would agree with that.
So, but the question is, if he comes back and says it's an impact fee and gives us an avenue to consider waiving it, is there any appetite to have a meeting just for this before, you know, at the end of the month or early July to just deal with this?
Mr. Chairman, could I make a proposal, just because
Sure.
I really would love to avoid this litigation?
Sure.
The board could pass a waiver tonight, subject to receipt of a letter from the town council, with the conditions that you want in that letter.
Yeah.
And then if the letter came in time, we could all go home.
Yep. What's the board think of that?
In the grounds that you're requesting per your letter is relative to pre and post use of water and sewer?
There's an
Or
ordinance.
water, because that's gonna be the sewer.
You do have an ordinance that says if there's going to be less impact
No, I'm
by
really,
the new use, that there is no,
do we have any records of the prior use of the building when it was the Masonic Temple?
no. But what we do have, we could still use it for that prior use, because that's a grandfathered use. And we
No,
have-
I understand,
I
but
consider that, but let me just explain. And if we did, the water, we have calculated the water consumption based on that pre-existing use. And it is higher than what the consumption is under the small 6 apartments. So that's between, we think between that and the fact that we've already spent $60,000+
that's the other part of the
on
ordinance.
getting the water infrastructure built. We just think it's the right thing for the town to do.
Does that extension of the water line solely service your building?
No, 2 other buildings as well tap off of that.
And so were were any of their lines also upgraded?
The main line going up Central now has been upgraded.
At
So
your
there-
expense?
At my expense, correct. Yep, and so that went up 20 feet up Central because when they did the big Main Street line, they only went up like maybe a foot onto Central, so then we brought it up another 20 where we enter the building. So I think there might have even been 3 buildings that tapped into that.
The new line that you brought up?
So exactly, yep.
Any thoughts?
I think that'd be fine. The board wanna go that way. Subject to, confirmation that it is an impact fee or not from the town council.
And it could be to the satisfaction of the town planner. That's
Sure.
what that would be.
Sure.
Is that setting any type of precedent, though?
No, it allows us in here to do that.
Okay.
Under, the whole thing. Yeah, under 32-238, the waivers, F, under 3. The planning board may waive an impact fee assessment for a particular capital facility where it finds that the subject property has previously been assessed for its proportionate share of public capital facility impacts, or has contributed pavements or constructed capital facility capacity improvements equivalent in value to the dollar amount of the fees waived. If I understand what Attorney Stebbins is saying, is that that improvement that they've made exceeds the cost of the tie-in fees.
Yep.
And if you look at the bigger picture, the line you brought up is coming up Central Ave within the public right-of-way, and other buildings are tying into it. So you really have made a capital improvement, which theoretically would have been the town doing that if they were going to upgrade the lines going up Central Street. And are both water and sewer upgraded?
Yeah, Joel has a bunch of pictures if you guys ever want to see
Okay.
the water department of the
Yeah,
old water.
but all
department.
at your expense.
Yes.
So that's what I'm saying. I think under
So we have the ability to do that, just subject to Attorney Radigan concurring that they, or
the
telling us that they
tie-in
are,
fees
they
are
are an impact fee.
Can be waived because of the capital improvements.
right.
And well, the
Well,
first
that-
threshold is that they are impact fees.
Yep. And
If they're not impact fees, we're out of it.
and that we're granting a waiver based under F3, based upon the testimony, given by the applicant
Yep.
of the, the capital improvements that they have made.
I'm okay with
Or I
that.
guess, the capital facility capacity improvements
What do you think, Scott?
exceed the value of the dollar
Make
amount
sense?
of the fees.
Yeah,
To what subject to?
we've already given them, the town council's also given them significant tax reductions, on their building.
79E,
There's the old Masonic temple,
Yeah.
yeah.
from under that program.
Scott, what do you think?
Patrick, you mean?
Patrick, I'm sorry, I'm looking,
So-
so I apologize.
After Val read that part of the ordinance, I would feel comfortable doing it. Did you have anything that you were submitting to us on that cost that you?
I'm happy to submit and make it
I mean,
subject
I
to
just
a
think
second
that
invoice.
would, if we're going to grant it based on that reason, it would be nice to have something in the record showing that in fact happened.
Yep.
I'm not doubting it did, it just,
No, I'm happy to
kind
submit
of
Yeah.
makes everything look,
So that'd be another condition subject to them providing
Yeah.
documentation that the money they spent.
exactly, to the town planner.
It's easy enough.
Or,
Yeah.
and so we could include that in their appeal. Then I would have no problem with it, yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, I do too. Val, you willing to make a motion?
So, it's really two conditions, right?
Yes.
Subject to the authorization, the planning board has the right to waive I'm gonna call them the water and sewer tie-in fees. So I would make a motion to grant the request for waiver from the petitioner of CC 86 Main Street LLC for the planning board to waive the water and sewer tie-in fees associated with the Masonic Lodge at 86 Main Street, tax map U2-53, on the basis that we have, that the applicant has stated they have made, they have constructed capital facility capacity improvements equivalent or actually in excess of value to the dollar amount of these fees being waived. And further, subject to the town's council, that the planning board has the legal authority to waive the water and sewer tie-in fees.
Very nice. Is there a second? Seconded by Jeff. Any discussion?
Yes, once we get the letter, do we regardless reconvene? We'll do that.
No.
No?
No,
Oh,
if the
and
letter
then-
says we have the right, then we're done.
And you also, under third condition, that the applicant submit documentation satisfactory to the town planner,
Yep.
of said expenses.
Are you willing to resecond that, Jeff?
Yep, second.
Okay, so the deal is that if our attorney says we have the ability to do it, then we vote in favor of this tonight, then we're done. If he doesn't, then we get them that information and they can do what you need to do with that.
Yep.
All right. So, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you, good luck.
Thank you.
And so, for when we get the letter from our attorney, Bart will be in touch with you to let you know.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So do you guys have any any items for Mike that you wanted to ask him? Or?
We close that hearing.
Dash up the lane.
Watch the tape.
No. All right, committee appointments. CIP full and alternate. Any volunteers?
I'll do
Jane?
it again.
Jane, you'll be the full.
I'll do it again.
Okay.
Whatever.
You did it last year, right?
I was just a backup. You were the.
Yeah, but I was never there.
Yeah,
So
that's
I don't.
what I was
I'm
saying.
not
You
gonna
were always
be-
there.
I was there, yeah.
I'm not
so-
gonna do it this year because I probably won't be there. So.
Yeah, no, I'll be happy to do it.
Anybody want to be the alternate for the CIP? It's a short run, it's intense, so for a month or 6 weeks.
It's fascinating.
Spending the taxpayers' money.
All right, we'll just let that go for now. Conservation Commission. Anybody want to be the rep to the Conservation Commission?
I'll stay if nobody else wants it.
Steph's on it right now,
Jeff?
yeah.
Congratulations, Jeff.
Thanks. It's good times.
And then
Excellent.
you're off, Patrick, so you're only on the planning board, right?
Yes, I'm only on the planning board.
Excellent.
Welcome to be there.
Excellent.
I am on the Lamprey River Advisory Committee, though, so I am,
Perfect.
You will be at a meeting.
I am the town representative there.
Right. Chairman's report. For the 12th month in a row, I have nothing to report.
Other than we love our new town planner's reports to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, very nice.
That is true. We do love that. And I understand we have a new code enforcement officer, correct? Okay,
Yeah.
good.
You'll be starting after July 1. And yeah, that's it.
Okay. Committee reports? Anybody have any? Scott?
So the town council had a presentation from Sean Gregg and Mike Curry, who's with Wright Pierce. It's an engineering firm. And they made a presentation on the access fees, and my understanding was that presentation is going to be given here as well.
Oh, that would be
Okay,
great.
I was thinking it would be this meeting.
Yeah.
So they went. It was a very. I thought it was a very good presentation. They went through and they literally calculated every penny of what it cost to process 1 kilogram of junk or poop or whatever. And then to make 1 liter of water, right? And then they just allocated it. It came out to. The numbers went up. The current wastewater is like $1,200. It went up to like $2,200, and the so water and sewer total came out to like $6,690, and
Those would be for betterment charges or
That's-
total?
this is the total of sewer and water.
Yeah, but they're not
impact fee.
charging tie-in fees plus system development charges?
Right? No, this is
One.
yeah.
You
The-
want
yeah,
water
this-
and sewer?
It's like
It's
Yeah, instead of-
it's not only that, it's now money just goes directly into the budget. So when Sean does something, when he comes to at least to the town council, I've got this little pot here, and I've got this pot here, and I got this pot here, and he's trading all those little
Yeah.
pots. Now it just goes into the kitty. He doesn't have to worry. There's no restrictions on it or anything. I thought that was a big feature of it.
Huge.
Oh, absolutely. That's a
Um,
common practice now. That's
So they'll present this, but so it's going to make us about $7,000 total. Exeter is about $3,000. Somersworth is about $7,000, and Dover is about $6,000. So it puts us maybe in the high end, but in that range. But this is probably what 10 times a year or something. I mean, this is. I don't think if you want to build a house, a couple $1,000s is going to change it. So I thought it was a very good presentation. There's been a second discussion within the council about the letter from the Historical Society, and we thought, well, we really don't know what the letter was asking, right? So, are they looking for, total restrictions and every building has to look, the same way, or are they just looking for some general thing? So we've invited them to come give a presentation in terms of what they think the letter said, so we can maybe act on it a little more.
Scott, can I just there is stuff in the master plan about historical preservation, so they should look at what's in there too, because it does provide some detail. That might be a question you might want to ask them when they come back before. Have they read the master plan and what it says?
Yeah, that's kind of the impression that I had, that they read the master plan and they wonder why we're not implementing it, but I'm not sure.
Okay, so that's a good question then, if that's what their response is.
But yeah, so we're wondering, what does the letter really say, right? And what exactly are you looking for? Because as Val pointed out, there were 60 people who signed the letter, and they range from Mike, what the hell is his name?
Provo.
Who used to run the planning board here. He was a signer of it, and the Historical Society people, a wide variety of people signed it. So clearly there's a belief that we're maybe a little too free range in their opinion. As you know, interest rates are going up, and so this is now old news, but we've refinanced some of the debt to take an advantage of the low interest rate before they go up. We have a new committee that we're forming called the Racial Equity, Inclusion, and Human Rights Committee. It's about half full. If anyone's interested, they're looking for people to join. And then the town is, like everybody, having difficulty hiring people, and so they've hired a company to come out and do a salary survey of what towns are paying people for various jobs, so that Newmarket can at least see if they're high or low or whatever. I'm sure Bart tells you we're really, really low.
I can tell you, we're probably not high because people won't leave if we were high.
Yeah. So anyway, we're going to find out. So that's it.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Anybody have anything else?
There's a few things from conservation that I think people might find interesting.
Sure.
One is that LCHIP decided that they're not going to hold conservation easements in the same way anymore. So Southeast Land Trust was before the Conservation Commission, to ask for them to vote to recommend that the town council accept greater responsibility on behalf of the town. So there's a deed that will be brought before the town council for them to accept.
Is that for maintaining?
Yeah.
More
So
for the maintenance costs of
the town will be responsible for monitoring the easement, essentially. And
So is the discussion then the town will hire like a land steward person?
Or we will, or the Conservation Commission will. They're working on a plan there where members of the commission will adopt certain properties, and they'll be the regular monitors of that property and kind of watch what's going on with these properties. So eventually someone will likely be
Like you do at Nordstrom? Nordstrom?
like we do at even Piscasset Place.
Okay.
Yeah, like we would walk in and monitor it, and probably have to submit a report to the state as we did.
But are you saying LCHIP's saying they don't want us to do reports to them anymore?
No, we have to. LCHIP, something changed at the state level, and I don't know exactly what it was where they're not. Yeah.
The Attorney General, or head of charitable trusts, ruled that LCHIP cannot monitor easements anymore.
Oh.
So now any new easement that's has to be by some other entity if I think the funding's involved with LCHIP. So
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a conflict of interest. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
That was a real rite of passage to walk the easement.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do that between New Hampshire and Vermont every year. They walk the Connecticut River, basically.
Yeah, the town's
Yeah.
supposed to walk their borders every year too.
Yeah.
That's what
7
York
years.
and Kittery got in
Yeah.
trouble. So.
Every 7 years?
I believe it's 7.
7 years, yeah.
Perambulations.
Yeah.
That sounds like a job for a survey.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Towns don't do
but
it. They're supposed to.
I
They're
don't know.
supposed
I
to,
know.
yeah.
I thought the Conservation Commission did it.
What's that?
We don't, the Conservation Commission doesn't do the walking of the,
I thought somebody did
The
it.
town boundary? No.
Yeah.
just our own
Easements.
Yeah.
Only if a property is on the boundary. We do have some properties that are on the boundary between Newmarket and Newfields that we walk, but that's not because we're doing the town,
Yeah,
it's the
no.
Yeah.
conservation.
No, that's the view. The perambulations for typically supposed to be done. Perambulation, yeah, it's supposed to be done by the like say the town council is supposed to do it in this town, and they're supposed to view the bounds and confirm that yes, that is the bound of the town.
There you go, Scott.
Yeah. Get my
Good luck.
boots
Get your tick pants
Yeah,
on.
exactly
and
right.
mosquito repellent.
Yeah.
Couple of things real quick. Just want to, in another venue, say thank you very much to Amy Benson, who was an Eagle Scout, who did much work for us at Heron Point, and then even donated back $1,000 to the Conservation Commission.
Wow.
Yeah,
Very
for monies that
thoughtful.
she had raised to do that. So that's a great thing for the town. And the other item would be that the Conservation Commission is going to draft a letter to recommend reclassification of the portion of Old Lee Road to Class A trail.
Oh, nice.
That's still Class 6 road, but it's only accessible on both ends by Class A trails. Because in Newfield it's a Class A trail, and in Newmarket there's a Class A trail, and it's a piece of Class 6 road. So,
It'd be nice to get that done finally.
yeah,
We won't have
so
to worry about it anymore.
yeah, so both of those will be hopefully eventually Class 6. I think that's it. We did have a speaker, Matt Larkin from NRCS, talked a lot about water quality, health, and different programs that they offer to landowners. And there's no minimum lot size. It's a pretty interesting program, but they do rank it. But so if you watch the beginning of our meeting, it's very interesting. Very interesting. But I think that's it. We did have 2 meetings, but I'm not going to take it back 2 months right now. So.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right, excellent. Thank you.
Yep.
Does anybody have anything else to add? Move on to the planners report. Bart?
Right now, I'm working on, one of the priorities of the board was looking at the ADU ordinance. So I'm doing an analysis right now, just current conditions, what town, where the single family lots are, what's their lot coverage and whatnot, and what's the capacity of properties or the town to take on more if it would become a little more or less stringent. So,
Excellent.
so I'm coming up with some language for the ADU ordinance as well, and analysis. So do a little presentation, and then the board could do whatever it wishes.
What do you think? A couple months before you have that, or?
I would say the latest August.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So just so we can get something going.
Yeah, I think it's.
As we get stormwater out of the way, we need something else to pay attention to.
And that's important. I think we need to look into that.
And I've heard a lot of community members saying, "Hey, what's going on with the ADU ordinance? You know, what are you doing?" So there's a lot of interest out there. So I think it'll be very beneficial for the town to take a look at it,
Awesome.
revisit it.
Anybody have anything else? Miss Jane?
I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Yeah.
All in-
What are you doing?
I'm sure there'll be no discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Please make sure everybody, your microphones are still on. So.